It is time for the next installment of me giving out comic advice, because I've been working on my stupid comic for 3 years, almost. Around this time is where I would have been working on the script, but up in August it will be the 3rd anniversary of actually posting 9 Lives. But anyway, starting your comic is probably the hardest part of the process, so I'm gonna try to give you some advice. But I recommend that you watch my previous video, specifically the one about writing comics, which I will be building off of that video in this one. There are a lot of things to keep in mind before you start, along with keeping in mind the story, how long it will take to complete, having your outline done, having time to script fully while you're doing the comic. Especially if this is first comic, you need to have an outline and you need to get like a very detailed outline so that you understand what you're doing and where you're going and you don't write yourself into a corner. This is also important for foreshadowing as well. You really want to try to get little hints in the beginnings of areas. You'll notice there's a bit of foreshadowing in 9 Lives, although we haven't gotten to a lot of bigger substantial areas in the story yet. But there is. I'm sowing the seeds, and you'll see more seeds being sowed of future things. Before we continue, I'm going to the footage in the background. The footage in the background is comic versions. I have a lot of this footage, so I'm just gonna use it for the next few videos. There should be a little bit more, and I'm gonna do an entire video about me redrawing the first scene of 9 Lives, because I want to do that. And plus, I've done a couple videos on redraws, and I'm gonna do more. Actually, I have a couple other things I want to redraw. But that one will be probably the next redraw. It might not be. I don't know. I also have a couple other things I need to redraw. I don't know. I'm very busy. I've got college classes, high school. Well, I have a college class. I have high school. I have art stuff because I have art classes. But I'm starting a second comic along with this one, along with 9 Lives, and I have this channel and a couple other channels that I'm going to slow down on posting on those other two and try to make this one my main channel and just fully cement myself into this channel because I want to. But you can go check out 9 Lives and see all of these updated pages in the website. It's linked in the description. You can also technically go to the webtoon and see the original ones. The original pages. I am not going to update those pages at all, so that will be so over there will be just an archive of all the original pages. I want to keep it that way for transparency. Anyway, one of the things that I suggest is once you have your script done, a few chapters ahead at least, then you can actually start drawing. But you cannot. But are you going to storyboard and make pages? No. Back up, take a few steps back, hold your fucking horses. It's time for prep work. I'll go into prep work on a whole other video entirely on its own and details on what you really do need to put in prep work. But basically, what prep work is stuff like all the things that you will need to do before pages. References, character sheets, color guides, backgrounds, items, emotion sheets, anything that you are going to draw repetitively in your comic, you need to have a reference built for it. I have 2 different reference boards. one for backgrounds and one for characters and miscellaneous. I personally have 2 separate blood references because I use a lot of blood in 9 Lives. So there is a wet blood reference and a dry blood reference. I want to keep the colors consistent, so I have those there. And I'm very glad that I did, because I had to use them again when redrawing the first scene, because there's a lot of blood in that scene. There's a lot of blood in that scene! There are a lot of injuries in 9 Lives. I have a bandage reference. I have crying references. I have blush references. I have a reference for all the cats because I want to make sure that I have all their patterns down. Anything that you think needs to be consistent and is going to be drawn multiple times, make a prep work for it immediately. I suggest going through the pages that you have script and what you have of the outline, and look at any sort of like locations that are going to be done repetitively throughout multiple chapters. Go and look at all of the characters, write down all the characters, write down any sort of like props, important props and items that you were going to need for it, and then make a list and then start doing the actual references. Character turnarounds are very important, but I also suggest floor plans and outfit guides, and maybe even outfit changes if you want to do that, and emotion guides. You can, during this stage, you can also do 3D models. I personally do not use them because I am terrified of Blender, but it is very helpful to have 3D references for certain backgrounds. You can technically also use pre-made ones, but I suggest using ones you make yourself, especially if you're doing a more complicated story. I do not use them, I use floor plans, and so far they've been going pretty well for me. Next, now you can actually start. After you've done all your prep work, it is time to storyboard. I do suggest doing a couple things first before actually starting the storyboard. One, make your own font. I love when comics make your own font. I have my own font for 9 Lives, although I've actually had to remake it a few times because my computer crashed. But I had to remake the 9 Lives font. But you'll see that the first, I don't remember, I don't even know how many, 10 maybe scenes of 9 Lives are in a very default font. I hate the way that they look. I'm gonna redraw them eventually, like redo the text eventually. I won't, it's not done yet. One of these days, I'm gonna fix the text and make it my own font. But for now, those exist. But for all of the other ones, I made my own 9 Lives font that is titled 9 Lives comic font on my computer. And so I use that font all the time. I have a site that I'll leave in the description. You can go check out to make your own one. Having your own font makes it a lot more personable and just a lot cooler. And I believe, what I really think is that it blends the text and everything in with your characters and makes it all feel like one unit. It's very, I don't know what I'm just word I'm looking for. If I figure out what word I'm looking for, I'll put it on screen. I don't know what word I'm looking for. It makes it, cohesive. It makes it look cohesive. That's the word, cohesive. Jesus Christ. Cohesive. It makes it look cohesive. Then, after that, you're gonna want to look at what type of size you want for your comics. You want your pages all consistent. One thing that you will want to do that I mentioned in my very first comic tips video is that you want to work in at least 300 DPI. No matter what your comic page size is, make it 300 DPI. I suggest looking at real comic page things on look up standard comic size. Look at the types of comics that you read that you think are nice, and then look at those dimensions, and then use them in your comic. I specifically have one that is labeled comic pages in my, in Krita, because I don't remember what I did. So I just pre-save it so that you have it, so that you know what it is, and make sure that it is above 300 DPI. Personally, draw 9 lives in 600 DPI. However, I will say if you're using a secondary site like Webtoon, it may look slightly pixelated than the original file. I know mine do, and that might be a slight issue with Krita, but that one is being fixed. So if that issue is fixed and it still does that with Webtoon, then I know this Webtoon. It might be both. It might be both. Either way, you want to also compile all of your references into one place. I have the reference board that I talked about earlier that I have all of my references in, and I just pull it up, and this way that there is less file and you're using less RAM in your computer. So that you also can just pull it up and have all of them in one place. You don't have to reopen or close them or like have a bunch open and then like flip through them. Just have one, and you just flip back and forth between your pages in that one. Now that you have finished all this, you are now ready to start thumbnailing. I personally do my thumbnails traditionally with a pen. Why? Because it's quick, and I feel like it. I don't want to think about it too hard, so I do it in one page, very like pretty small, so that I can just get the page down and in pen, so that I don't have to like worry over every single little detail. And then I will take a picture of that and upload it to Krita. If you're an old person working on chat pages, you'll typically do batches of however many pages that you want. I personally fill up an entire page with each scene in like one line, because the way that I wrote down lives is strange. Typically it'll be 3 to 5 scenes, depending how long they are. Like say if I have a 10-page scene, that one will take up 2 lines on my paper, so that'll take up a little bit more time, and I won't have room for another scene. But if I have like a 3-page scene or a 5-page scene, then that'll fit on one line, so it's fine. Next, you should try and you need to make sure that you can organize your files properly. I mentioned this briefly in my the original Comic Ticks video, but you need to have your files in a way that makes sense to you. I personally have them as the number and then P the number, and there's a space in between those. So like if I'm doing if I'm doing scene 67 and I'm on page 3, the file name will be S67 page 3. And that's how I have them on my hard drive, and I've done that from the beginning because I wanted to keep them all in a way that I understand. They are very easy to look through. I know exactly which page I'm looking for. If you're doing like chapter-based comics, then you'll probably do like a C number, and then the scene number, and then the page number. But I personally do this. I know it's a little inconvenient. Anyway, once you've named and organized your files, you can make panels. Any guides that you want, and then start drawing. I suggest doing bleed guides. I don't, because I have no fear. I will go into depth on how to actually draw the comic videos in the future, but however, I will be talking about how to export your files. Depending on the website that you'll be posting your comics on, they need to be smaller, very small. When you export your file, you should have the option to change the size. Krita has a wonderful, lovely slider. I go to default 3 because there is because it's not. It's a little bit bigger than medium, but it's not very big, and it's not very tiny either. Other things here include the DPI. Once you export your file, you can finally post your pages. Other things here include the DPI, and sometimes your dimensions. Wait, I'm gonna pull it up, actually. Hold on. In Krita, they have this wonderful slider. I suggest putting it in between 3 and 7, so that it's not too big and not too small, and you don't want to go anywhere in between that. And websites, other software will have different settings, but for Krita, it's just that. So if you're not using Krita, then I suggest looking up somebody else's tutorial on how to do that, because I do not personally know how to export those files. Once you export it, you can finally post your pages. I don't really care for your post pages. I am planning to do a small video on my opinion on some of the comic places, the comic websites. But in general, Webtoon is the most popular at the moment. Tapas is really kind to their creators, and I personally do my own website, but that one is really hard because you, especially if you're just starting and you're a small artist, you don't have any audience. Anyway, once you get down where you're posting it, just do that. Just post it. To me, once I get started, I have trouble stopping. But anyway, I have a couple bits of more advice to talk about as well. Me, I have a lot of trouble stopping, but there have been moments when I was burnt out. So, how do you keep yourself from getting burnt out and stay motivated? I personally have a work schedule. For 9 Lives, I work weekdays and not weekends, like 5 to 9, except I usually only work for like 6 hours. I usually only work for like 3 hours and not 8. If I worked for 8 hours, I could get like 4 to 5 scenes done a week. I'm not doing that. Also, I also work even if I finish the scene for that week. Because of the inconsistency of length of the scenes that I do, I never really know how long the next week is going to be, especially if I am nearing the end of my little storyboard batch. And so I don't want to lose my mind. So I'll work on pages all week and keep myself busy to create a backlog for longer scenes when they come up. A 10-page scene may take me over a week to complete, and so I don't want to get behind, so I'm going to keep working regardless of if I finish the one for that week. So since I post weekly. So working non-stop makes it so that I don't have to worry when I get to those longer scenes. Now, if you're going to be doing just a few pages a week, like a normal person, then you don't have to do that. If you're planning to do 2 pages a week, only do those 2 pages in a week. After that, take a break and maybe work on prep work, or writing, or projects during that time. Then do the same thing the next week. I definitely recommend this method and not the one that I use, although if you are on a contract, this might change. I recommend making pages organically throughout the week with your free time. Count pages you completed, and then do 1 less page than that per week. This seems to be the consensus to a lot of other comic artists, so that you can have perfect time and have no stress, especially if you're doing more complicated pages in the future. Decide on pages that make sense and stick to a schedule. And if you do experience burnout anyway, don't be afraid to take a break. Normal comic artists will take long breaks after each chapter, so roughly every 100 pages, sometimes even less. I didn't do that. I don't listen to me, listen to other people. Take breaks after each chapter. It doesn't have to be long. Just take some time to yourself, and then have prep. Then have time for yourself, and then do any prep work that you need for the next chapter. So, as I've said before, keep yourself at a pace yourself to a manageable amount that you think is feasible. I'm a very fast artist, and drawing a page would take me about an hour and a half. You might be like that. You might not be like that. And trust me, I don't think you may not be like that. And trust me, I didn't start like that. The first 5 scenes were terrible torture, overworking myself to the bone, and feeling really stressed out and sad since the pages didn't look the way that I wanted them to. So I took a break, and I slowed down, and I started working up to being able to complete every single scene a week. It took a lot of effort and time to get to that point, including gaining a habit of working every day. If you end up struggling to do the amount of pages that you want to, slow down. You don't have to post 3 pages a week. Hell, you can post 3 pages a month. I know comic artists that just post pages as they complete them with no schedule at all. And trust me, you are fine. Slow down. You do what you can. Do what you can manage. Don't do what you can manage. Don't overwork yourself. Be careful. Trust me, overworking yourself is not worth getting a few more pages done. You will damage your physical and mental health, and you will burn out quicker or lose the ability to draw altogether. Slow down. Anyway, that is all the advice that I have today. As usually, go check out my other videos about comics, and if you already watched them, don't forget to subscribe because there will be more videos coming. And in the meantime, I have to go work on my own comic, which you definitely should go read if you haven't. And also, it's nap time. I'm gonna go clock out.